change it. The principle of the culture remains the same. You can't change that.
Yeah.
But how you put those principle in practice changes from time to time.
Okay.
Nobody tells you that you've got to pay $70,000 for a fruit. No one. You yourself has created it, and you created it as a problem for yourself.
Thank you, Luamanuvae. This is a first for our service, and to have someone as yourself volunteer to be interviewed in this space is really special for Pacific Health Service Hutt Valley. But let's get back to who you are and your name and where you come from. Share with our audience a little bit about, or as much as you like, about your roots and where your name comes from, where you come from. So yeah, we get an idea of who we've got online with us today.
I want to say thank you, Derek, for actually inviting me to be part of your program and creating a different way of actually sort of connecting with your people. So I feel very privileged to actually be part of this process and this opportunity. So thank you very much for that.
That's good.
About me, I am Kuresa, and I'm using that word I am rather than my name is. And the reason why I do that is well-being is about knowing yourself. And when you say my name is, then that's somebody else's. When you say I am, then that's me. So when I say I am, then I know that I know myself, rather than that somebody else has called me the way I am. And of course the name is a hearsay anyway, if you really want to understand it. And that's why I say I am, because of the fact that I believe that well-being is fundamentally about us knowing who we are. So Kuresa is my name. I have a title of Luamanuvae from where I come from and from my family, and that is from Salolonga in Savai. And the title Luamanuvae is one of the high chiefs of our village. So I'm very sort of honoured to be given that sort of opportunity as well. In terms of my own journey, I grew up in my early years very much in my village, and during a time when everything is traditional. Houses were traditional, the way people were living were very much traditional. We had a lot of connection with traditional way of living, where you connecting with people the way what you call osida and so forth. So my early stages of life was very much culturally orientated in that sense. I was adopted, but the adoption was within the family anyway. I went to school there, and most of the schools were very focused on, trying to learn something new so that you can have a better life than what we have. Now I come to realise probably what we had is far better than what we were actually trying to aspire to. And through that schooling and sort of being brought up in the church as well, and very much family orientated, not just immediate family, but very much part of the culture as extended family and that sort. I went through school, did very well, and ended up in Samoa College in Apia. And when I went to Samoa College, it was pretty strange for me, because I wasn't used to that sort of kind of environment, a more commercial based environment, whereas where I come from is more family orientated, and you go to your local shop to buy your stuff, but you live off the land most of the time. And I guess in Samoa College, most people know that Samoa College at the time was a very the top college in Samoa anyway, so I was very, very honoured and privileged to go there, and did quite well, and then at just about sitting school cert, my mother came over from New Zealand, where she came 10 years before that, and then she said, "Are you going to New Zealand?" I said, "Okay, we'll go and see what New Zealand is like." And so I left early 70s and landed in Auckland. It was quite a shock for me to be in an environment that was totally foreign to who I am and what I know. And I came over to actually sort of finish my schooling. So I went to Hillary College in Otara. Hillary College was considered as not a very good college at the time because I think their sort of academic was not as good as all the other colleges. But what I discovered later on is that Hillary College was way ahead of all the other schools in New Zealand in terms of how it changes focus into, what's the word that I'm looking for, it sort of validates and make important your culture and who you are. So the sort of thing that you now see at the Polynesian Festival, we started all that stuff from Hillary College. And the other thing that Hillary College did for me was it politicized me. It really made me really think differently about New Zealand, because I thought New Zealand was, straightforward, land of milk and honey and so forth, and that's why we came here. But as I discovered that politics is different, I became aware that New Zealand is not as equal as I thought it was, and that places like Otara, it's not viewed very, very favourably by most of the rest of New Zealand. So from that experience, I really learned a lot about New Zealand itself, and learn about racism, learn about the way in which certain people are sort of treated by authority and so forth. And at that school we started to become a political group of students, and we started to have a group called Whakahau, and Whakahau was looking at how to work with youths and how to work with the community to sort of improve the standard of the community, or provide facilities for the community, so forth. And before I even left school, the school was actually campaigning to get a community centre for young people, and we eventually built one called Te Puke Otara. So from then on, that sort of exposure, I went to university and actually sort of did a social work qualification, a 4-year degree. Finished that, and I went and worked for the Department of Social Welfare in those days. Excuse me. And after spending a few years working, then I went back to university and did a Master in Business Administrations, and started having an academic life, sort of teaching and so forth at university, and politics, and so forth. Mainly teaching on the social work area and social science area and so forth. So that's my journey. And then starting to get involved in that, just sort of trust and things like that, and helping sort of our people, primarily our people. My focus on Pacific people became far more focused when I was in the Department of Social Welfare because I was working a lot with our people then and realised that what I was learning at university just doesn't make sense to the lives of our people that I'm visiting and then sort of working with them and so forth.
It's fascinating. I want to ask so many questions already about different things, but can we go back to those influences? Who were those men or women that influenced you at Hillary College? Maybe it was your mum or dad. Well, how was it that they...
The first influence for me was my parents, really.
Yeah.
My father was a policeman, and being the older boy, I became the man of the family, you know, at the very early age, probably about 10. So I was the one that goes to the plantations and do all that.
Yeah.
But a lot of what I saw, what my father was doing was he wasn't just a policeman, but he was also a matai, and a lot of the work that he was doing, when the law is unable to deal with a situation, he uses the culture. And he said to me, in one situation where he has to come in and try and solve a situation within a village, where the village was starting to, you know, have a fight amongst themselves. And he said to me, you know, one thing that's really, really important is that if you go there with your police uniform, right, well, that's something external. So what he said, he put his police hat beside him, and then used his matai title, and then he starts speaking to him. Never forget that, because that has been one of the key things in my dealing with particularly Samoan families and any other families, because one of the things that he said was about respecting the dignity of people that you're dealing with. It doesn't matter what they are, who they are, and they said that everybody from a Samoan perspective has dignity, and they have their own mana, their own mamalus and that sort of kind of thing, and so you should never undermine that in the way you deal with it. So that stuck with me. In the way I actually later on deal with social work and actually do my counselling, that's always been the fundamental process and way I deal with people, is to respect the dignity of people. Even though somebody has done a very terrible thing, but you just can't treat them in a way that you don't respect who they are and who they bring with them. Yeah. Because from the Samoan perspective, you're not alone.
Yes.
Right. You're bringing your families, your mother's family, your parents' family, and your wharupenga, your village, and all that. So all those things are really important in the way I dealt with it. So that was fundamental. But in terms of understanding the what you call the Western world that I walked into, Hillary College was very, very important in that process, because like I said, I got politicised and the teachers there were very, very important to us, because they took us under their wing and take us to meetings. They took me to maraes, and when I went to marae at that age, I thought, I saw similarities between Māori and Samoa, and I was so fortunate that I was, and I became involved in a lot of the issues, Māori issues, in the land march in '75, and some of the protests that we had about South Africa and who were coming in here and playing sports and that sort of, and got involved in where was it?
Bastion Point.
Bastion Point, yes. Yeah. Well, this group called Whakahau that we formed at Hillary College, we became involved with Ngā Tamatoa and Polynesian Panther. We had a lot of discussions with them and meetings with them. We even went to Weymouth to go and play basketball with the young girls who are in the institution there. But when that situation at Bastion Point happened, we went and camped there and thoroughly found that powerful really powerful, because here you are in amongst the Māori people who are standing up for their rights and for the fact that they need to reclaim their space in terms of compassion point. So I learned a lot from that sort of engagement and become quite involved in a lot of the Māori issues then. And at the same time, the issue of dawn raids, a lot of Pacific issues were raised then by the Polynesian Panther. And so we became part of that whole movement to protest in the streets and that sort of thing about issues that Pacific Island people were actually sort of experiencing at the time. And that taught me a lot about New Zealand, you know, I mean, even the Western world, that we thought we were coming into the land of milk and honey, but no. there are structural things that you must be aware that that kind of separate people or demarcate people from what they do and who they are and that sort of kind of thing. So the teachers here, particularly people like Mitchell, who's one of the teachers, Lindbergh, Thompson, and others who were really instrumental. People like Sandy Wright, who instrumental in introducing me into that sort of kind of political understanding of New Zealand. And then I began to understand why we come here and why we were brought here and how we are being treated over here. And it created a lot of questions in my mind of how do we make our people understand the fact that we are just a product of what you call a political economy of labour migration, that you were only brought here because there was a need in New Zealand, right? And when we come over here, we made a huge contribution to the new development of New Zealand, because they moved from agriculture into what you call the manufacturing sort of economy, and we were the one that actually sort of kind of take that sort of work on. And yet, you know, if I ask the question now, have we made a change in our lives, I probably would say and argue that probably not, because we might look like we look rich and that sort of, we made some improvement, but in the scale of thing, in comparison to the rest of New Zealand, we haven't really. We are still in the same position, and therefore why I tended to move into the area of trying to work with our own community to actually sort of, how can we actually sort of improve ourselves in this sort of kind of environment, because you've got a lot of barriers. You know, you've got the legal barriers, you've got the education barriers, you've got institutional barriers, like, you know, how you are actually viewed by New Zealand. Even though you made a very huge contribution to New Zealand, you're still viewed right at this point, right? Not as important as it should be. And that's why people like Awhanai is trying to fight for our rights, because of who or what we've done, and our relationship between New Zealand and Samoa or the Pacific for that matter. So that has led me to this whole thing that I thought, if I go and work as a social worker, then I will have an impact in making our people improved, or have an idea of how to live in here in a way that actually sort of they can have better control of their lives. Yeah, it's good. That's the influence that I had. And then going to university, you know, you start reading a lot about different theoretical understandings of societies and issues in psychology and things like that, and how psychology has been used to kind of control certain movement or social relationship within in New Zealand society.
Yeah, Luamanuvae, looking back over time, what advice would you give the younger version of you, so the Kuresa from the mid to late 70s? What advice would you give a young Kuresa?
I would advise myself to really find out the real reality of the world, because the world that we're in, there are a lot of things in there that we don't understand that I have discovered it myself, that if we understood that, well, if I understood that right from the start, I'll probably be completely different, took a different journey, because I didn't know that, because I thought government is going to help us, right? That's why I went and worked for the government. Well, now, government is not going to help us, right? It might give you enough to actually keep you going by, but for me, government is no longer for us, because that's the nature of this Western world is. There are a lot of unseen things that people don't see, that has led to situations where we don't make huge progresses in our life. I mean, a lot of people are saying, you got to work hard, and then someone will.
Ko angari la unga, and good grades. And,
they always had to work hard, but the rich people, they don't work hard because they know the system and they use the system. We don't know the system, right? So we ended up paying a lot of taxes and we ended up paying a product of the system because that's how the system deals with it. And if I go back to well-being, I mean, a lot of well-being is determined by this system, right? And sometimes we kind of suffer consequences of things that we don't know, right? But it's the environment that's actually sort of created, because if you look at human development is about your ability to negotiate the social and economic environment that you're in. And if you're not able to understand those sort of kind of things, then you just cruise along with it thinking that's a good thing, that you're in a good space. But all the time that you're just a servant to the system.
Yeah.
Sort of kind of thing, and therefore you can't control it. So if I look at the whole question of well-being, for me, well-being is really your responsibility, right? And that comes from understanding who you are, and when you understand who you are, then you have a much better understanding of trying to understand the world that you're in relation to the things that why do you live in a certain sort of place, right? Or why can't you buy a house, right? And why can't you get the kind of jobs that you like, sort of kind of thing. Those sort of kind of things. So for me, then, if I look at well-being as a very, very issue that we deal with, is I think our well-being is we're depending on other people for our well-being, and therefore, when you depend, you no longer become responsible, right? But you're now relying on somebody to be responsible for your own well-being, and sometimes that system label you in a certain way, and when they label you in a certain way, you start to believe that, and when you believe that, then you think
become it.
Yeah, it becomes a reality to you because they define it for you.
Yeah.
But it's really important that we learn about who we are, and that's not just learning it from one dimension. I think this is about knowing you in the many different dimensions that you are. So you need to learn yourself about your culture, you need to learn about your physiology, and need about your material sense of well-being. You need to learn about your own intellectual well-being, and you need to learn about your own sort of emotional well-being, and then of course your spiritual well-being. And most of us are caught up in what you call the material and emotional well-being because we're struggling, and life is always a challenge. It's about, can I survive tomorrow? Sort of kind of thing.
Yeah. Living for today and
Yes, and this is why I think well-being is not just a one-dimensional thing, and I really, when I work with people, I try to incorporate a lot of those things, those key things together.
I was just going to ask, Luamanuvae, you've had many experiences over many years with our men and hundreds of men over time, and with that experience from the islands and now in New Zealand, what are the best approaches that you've had in supporting someone, for example, that was pulled over by the police for a DUI and then sent to you for anger management or alcohol related or even relationship?
Well, I think the first question that I ask when somebody comes in here, and that is what I do, I ask, do you know yourself?
Yeah.
And when I ask that question, people go quiet.
I would.
It's because you're caught up in it, and because your world is defined, or yourself has been defined by someone else, right? You kind of caught up then with all that sort of kind of tensions about the kind of challenges that you face in life. So, for example, my belief is that most of the people that come in here is because that's what happened to them. They don't know themselves that well. What they know of themselves has been defined by somebody else.
Even that question, that simple question,
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes.
That must take more than 6 weeks to unpack one-to-one. Because
I can tell you the reaction is really, really amazing in terms of how that impacts on the mind of the person I'm asking that question. I just ask that question to start with and let them actually think about that. And the quietness, I can tell you can drop a pin. And that sort of, because they're now sort of realising, wow, maybe I don't really know myself. And that's the truth. They don't know themselves. And I'm trying to link them in their cultural understanding of who they are. And I said, for Samoan, I'd say, well, do you know who you are in that sort of sense? And they look at me, well, do you know your fathers? Whalapenga, village and that sort of kind of thing? Do you know your mothers? No. I said, would you like to find out about that? Because in that, it's going to tell you something about who you are, right?
Yeah.
In terms of your culture. And also the same question, the other question that I ask when it's a couple. There's a couple that come and they have so my first question to them, is there love in the relationship? Again, the quiet. In some cases, that's the end of the session. Just that question, finished. Because they realise there isn't any love in the relationship.
Wow.
And then they go and sort it out themselves. And if there is love in a relationship, but it's all to do with the tensions, then we work on those. We work on the notion that, they love each other. It's just that they don't know how to express that love. And usually that love is expressed in the terms of what you call expectations.
Yeah.
And when you expect a lot, well, you're creating tensions. Because when that expectation is not come in fruition, or when it's not, then you get angry. And when you get angry, what happens? Your hands start to fly, or your words start to fly, because you're expecting, right? And I said, well, what happens if you switch it to say you appreciate it? You appreciate your wife and that.
Yeah.
Right? Completely different mindset.
Different. If you had a piece of advice to a younger married Kuresa, or someone listening, what would that piece of advice or a word of wisdom be about relationship? That's a very real.
Yeah, the first thing is understand appreciation.
Understand appreciation.
Don't expect. And love unconditionally. And when you love unconditionally, you accept everything about your partner good and bad, right? Not just the good.
Yeah.
And when you accept that, you respect her because you know where she's at. You know, she might not be where you're thinking, right? And then when you respect that, that creates a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
Because your talanoa to them is said, well, something like, no, I understand where you're at, and that's fine. You know, I think we just need to talk about it, and you have no anger in there. Do you know what I mean? Because you're appreciating the person.
Yeah.
It's like a gift. When somebody gives you a gift or a treasure, what do? You look after it. You wrap it up nicely and put it away in something else. Well, that's how your relationship be. Sort of.
So your partner, your wife, is a gift.
It's a gift.
Not trash.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say, and this is what I do in all my work, is that I'm trying to balance the material and the and what you call the spiritual part of the person, because the spiritual part is so important as what you call a balancer. It balances everything, because you know that when you're in the spiritual realm, nothing rocks you. It doesn't matter how bad things are. It's not going to rock you because you have a faith. You have an understanding that a God, whatever God you believe in, is there, right? He's not going to do it for you, but he's going to help you understand it and guide you in the way you're going to deal with it in the sort of situation. So that balance is really important to me. And that's what I do when I deal with guys, is trying to balance those things together. Most of the guys that come here, they're absolutely driven by the material world.
Yeah.
And that a lot of expectations,
Yes.
right? And then a lot of anger.
Yeah.
They all go together, those things.
Yeah.
But when you have a little bit of intelligence, the intelligence is trying to deal with these three things, trying to bring something, but it's not enough. Because sometimes your intelligence, right, can lead you astray, and you sort of think you know more, you know.
Can I ask? Yeah, it's a really good question, really good point you raise. It's almost changing the mindset around materialism, expectation, and there was something else, the anger.
Yeah.
How do you
Emotion,
help? How do you help one of the brothers, one of the men, rewire that thinking? Because it's hardwired for some of us.
Yeah,
Where do you start?
I try to make them understand what expectation is and how does it work.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a guy come here because he belted his wife, and then I sort of said, well, why do you think you belted your wife? And he said, well, she wasn't doing what I wanted. And I asked him, well, do you think you have the right to do that? And he said, yeah, I do, because that's what I expected. And I said, well, do you think your expectation is the thing that you need to do? And I think once we get into the bottom of it, and I explain what expectation is doing to him, then he realizes that he's living in a life of stress, emotional turmoil, because every time his expectation is not met, he gets angry. And you know what happened to you when you're angry? It makes you sick, because it raises your cortisol level. Right? And your cortisol levels is the one that's responsible for creating all the negative illnesses in you. So if you're living in that sort of kind of environment, if your life is about expectations, you know, you want your food, you want your best food, you want your best car, and that sort of kind of thing, and you go and loan yourself all sorts of money to get the car that you want, and then you can't pay, and that sort of kind. You're living in a very stressful life, because all those things are determining your emotional reaction or response to things, even your relationship with your wife. Because if you're stressed by unable to pay the rent and that sort of thing, and the wife just come to ask for something, you're going to get angry because she's getting the way. Well, you know what I mean, eh? And we're caught up in all that trap.
Yeah.
And what I say to people is saying, you know, what happens if you switch your mindset into appreciating your wife, that you appreciate in the way that that's where she is. And then you help her to, you know, to build that sort of kind of understanding so you can both on the same wavelength.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't, you know, lead to any sort of negativity if you really understand what appreciation is about.
Totally.
And it's the same with your kids, you know. You know, if you appreciate your kids, you know, you're not going to hurt them. But you make sure that, you know, they understand the things that they need to understand at that stage of their lives.
Yeah.
So they don't go about and sort of make the same mistakes over and over and again, and that sort of. I don't know what I answered the question, but
Yeah, it was around that rewiring that the expectation, trying to you know, make money and
So,
the anger.
So for me, don't attach yourself to the world. Because that causes you a lot of problems. So for our brothers who are actually sort of listening, you know, be happy with what you got. Don't try to outdo somebody else.
I remember you shared that at our most recent men's breakfast around like the cost of your car and you know, and how you use money or view money is probably the difference. It's not about having millions of dollars, but you're still rich in your thinking. And that's what I got from that talanoa.
Well, I went through that journey. You know, I had well-paid jobs, but I was still poor. You know, I was still struggling with money. Well-paid jobs, you know. And I was trying to understand that. But I think one time I just come to the realization that, and I learned this from reading a document called Vedanta Treatise about the whole notion of attaching yourself to the world. So I realized that if I attach myself to money, that's what I'm going to continue to have is to. So I completely wrote off money in my. I don't want to make money as my priority. Money is there. If it comes, it comes. If it's not, that's all. It's all good. So what I found is that when I dropped that notion of trying to make money as a priority, I never short of money. Honestly, that's my honest experience with money.
You mentioned that at the men's breakfast.
And I never worried about money. Because I don't make it as a priority. If I don't have it, if my brother rings up and says, we've got a five lovey, I don't have the money, I said, sorry, but I don't have any money.
It's pretty hard for the men listening when your brother rings, there's a five lovey.
Yeah. Well, that's my reality now. I actually honestly tell my brother, sorry, I can't help you now because I'm going through some situation where I need to keep the money around here for now. It's not going to continue because I know that's going to come off soon because of, and then I'll be able to help you.
I want to come to you mentioned at the men's breakfast about fasting and your own health journey, but before. I'd like to hear your journey on that because I remember you talking about this years ago in another conversation. But you mentioned whālewe, and that's a very real pressure and expectation on a lot of our men or families. What advice or, you know, because you shared at the men's breakfast about your mum's passing, and you I remember you saying I wasn't going to pay $70,000 for.
No.
And I thought, oh man, that's. I wonder how that went down for the village and the family because of who your mum was and the decisions you made. A small funeral that's virtually almost unheard of, unless you've got really good leaders who are making clear boundaries and leadership.
Yeah.
Can you walk us, for the listeners who don't know the story, can you share a little bit about how you came about that?
Again, I go back to those principles of expectation and appreciation.
Yeah.
I think the culture itself is very good. I don't blame the culture.
Yes.
Culture is fantastic because the culture is a community culture, it's a communal culture, and it's a very supportive culture.
Yeah.
The problem is when we have expectations of that culture, and this is where we're starting to have, people expect a funeral to cost $70,000, right? Because you need to deal with this, deal with that, deal with that. Yeah. Whereas when you appreciate things, you don't have to give $1,000 for the ministers. Well, you can afford, right? If you have to give anything, for mine. So for me, wharewilawe is a very, very important part of the culture because this shows our connections, our support, and so forth.
Yeah.
But let's appreciate that thing in its own value. That it's about supporting. It's about going and offer your condolences and some money to deal with whatever needs to be dealt with. But it's not about everybody brings $10,000 each, because no. Because people now are going to go and loan that money to be able to give that money. And where's that money going to go to? And what happened after?
Yeah.
You're going to now face a lot of stresses because of that expectation. So for me then, if you stuck on that notion of expectations, you are going to suffer.
And that's a lot of our people.
Yes.
That they can't say no, or they can't not give, or get the loan. What do you say to Adi?
I just basically, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm actually honest about those things. I'm no longer trying to satisfy things that I don't think I can. Because I don't want to spend the rest, I'm 71, I don't want to spend the rest of my life actually paying loans.
Yeah.
And why do you should go and loan?
Yeah.
That's money thrown away. You could have directed that money in a much better way.
Yeah.
And I think when you become a matai, then you have a role.
Yeah.
To bring in this sort of new changes into those sort of kind of things.
So is that a key?
One of the
someone's
keys.
listening in who's a matai,
If
you
got
have that voice, you have that influence
Yeah.
to speak with your family and say,
Yeah.
let's not make this a heavy burden on ourselves and let's make some changes together.
You're not changing the culture, you're changing the practice of the culture.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why there's a saying, e ku mau ia angai nu, e ku mau anga nu, ai sui angai whanua.
Okay.
Which means that the principle of the culture remains the same, you can't change that.
Yeah.
But how you put those principles in practice changes from time to time, in time and space.
Yeah.
So nobody tells you that you've got to pay $70,000 for a funeral. No one. You yourself has created it, and you created it as a problem for yourself. And that's because there are a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
And it's about time that we start challenging those expectations and return ourselves to something that's far more affordable, far more peaceful, and far more, appropriate with our situations.
Yeah. Like realistic, practical. I could hear my dad's voice, and my dad is a sa'o in the family, and I love my dad. Dad, I love you if you're watching. And he talks about his mum's funeral.
Yeah.
And how, kia wha leile, the aso tina, and everyone was looked after. And I feel that pressure on my siblings and us.
Yes.
And I was like, and it's going to cost. And my uncle passed away recently, and it was about that much money. And I was like, man, that's a lot of money. Where does that come from? Unless you remortgage your house, if you own a house.
Yeah, I think that's what people have done, is actually they now go and find ways of actually sort of getting that money because they haven't got it.
No.
Right.
Who has that money?
And the trouble is, if you want to buy a car, if you own an old car and want to upgrade your car, you won't be able to do it. But comes somebody rings up about a funeral, you'll find that money.
Change your number. Change your SIM card. Sorry. No, I think that's a dear friend of mine who we've had interviewed through Pacific Health, they've said that their mate made a similar ruling in their family around give what you can, let's be practical, let's not put a heavy burden on our family, and that's
why I encourage people, if you really want to make some changes in your family, then go and be a mate, because that's the way you have your voice heard.
Yeah.
If you're not a mate, then you'll be treated as, okay, when a mate is finished, but even a good mate is somebody who's going to seek everybody's opinion, whether you're mate or not.
Yeah.
That's a good mate.
Someone who seeks everyone's opinion.
Seeks everybody's opinion.
So someone who takes the time to talanoa.
That's a mate who loves his family very much. Right? Because he loves his people, because he doesn't want them to suffer. Yeah. And he wants the opinions of everybody rather than actually just the mateis.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. A really good mate is the one that looks after his family.
And seeks everyone's.
And he hears the voices of everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And takes the time to go and talk to members of the family, and he will understand the suffering that they're going through and what's causing that suffering.
Yeah.
That to me is a really good leader, who's a leader that has compassion, has love, and very wanting his family to live in peace and not struggle.
Was your father like that? Just wondering.
Yeah, no. Come to think of it, I think it's probably more from. Yeah, I think my father was like that. My father was actually not a person that likes the big sort of kind of stuff. He was quite happy with what people are able to provide and raise and that sort of kind of thing. I can never remember any time that he's made some demands. He asks rather than demanding, and if you're able to, and when your parents ask, you try not to do the best you can for them.
Yeah. Yes.
That sort of thing.
I'm going to finish, before I finish, with the final question, and that final question is around a message to our brothers, a parting message. What would that message be for our men, our brothers, our uncles who are listening in? But before we get there, would you mind sharing a little bit about your own journey through health and fasting and why you've kind of gone that way?
Yeah. When I was, a teenager moving into young adult, I was very fit, very sporty, didn't care about what I eat because your body actually sort of, able to go to those things. But as I grew older, I felt that I was getting big and getting bigger. And every time I try to go and train and sort of do it, it's not working. And I didn't understand why. And until recently, or not recently, probably about 20 years ago, I sort of come to realise that I was doing it all wrong. And this is where the spiritual element comes in. I suppose this is maturity. Is that you remember in the breakfast I said we're all made in God's image.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
It's really important to understand that. Right? What is that image in your mind? Did God make you with all his illnesses and things like that? No, he gave you a perfect body. Right? And he gifted you a perfect mind. He gifted you a perfect body. Right? And then he said, go. The world is yours. So when I understand that I am made in God's image, then it's the place of God in your life is really important, and in your health as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if I am the image of God, why do I need to do things to damage that image? Right? That's what I came to realize. And then the other thing is, you know, somewhere in the Bible, I don't know where it's Jesus that said that your body's a temple.
Yeah. Temple of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Would you want to trash the temple?
That's a good point. No, you wouldn't.
No. And this is what I mean by how the spiritual well-being comes over and actually corrects some of the things that you're not doing right. When you understand what that means in terms of your body is the temple, right? Then you're not going to destroy that temple by doing things that is not good for it. And then the other thing that I said on that day was the fact that I think Jesus said something like, I am in you, you are in me, God is in me and God is in you. So basically, my perception of God is that God is not out there in the sky somewhere that we need to pray to. Right? God is in you, He's already in you. If God is in you, then you need to keep that health really well. You need to keep that body, if that's the temple that God is in. You know, God is not in the church or something like that. God is in this temple. So I need to keep that tidy and clean. So I started to look at the whole issue of how we look after that temple. And I've come to the conclusion that we are what we eat. And if we eat the wrong food, you're going to have the wrong things in your body. And I was looking at ways in which you can actually look after your body. And fasting I discovered that fasting was really, really important. And also realized that this is God's way of actually showing you how the body can heal itself, because this is what the fasting does. If we fast, then your body is going to be able to deal with all the illnesses that you have, because once you reach what you call autophagy, and this comes within 16 hours of fasting, your body then is going to go around and fix everything immediately, because this is what I mean by the gift that God gave us, the body. It's already given us its own way of actually healing itself. And if we don't look after it, and this is why I think some of the things that we're doing is that we can't depend on the pill. You know, we go and eat and, I got the pill that actually sort of fix my gout or something like that, or my diabetes or something like that. But there are ways you don't need to take the pill to actually sort of deal with your diabetes and that sort of kind of thing. So that's why I realized, because fasting is a spiritual thing. It challenges you spiritually.
Yeah.
Right? Because try 3 days fasting. And I tell you, it's very, very difficult on the first day. Once you go on the second day, you cruise along. To the point on the third day you don't even want to eat. Because your body is in such a exhilaration, I think. It's whatever is going on in your body. It just gives you that spirit. It lifts your spirit up as well. Yeah. And that's why I find it very important now, especially at my age. You know, if I respect my body, then I need to do the right thing about what I eat. I'm not saying that medicine is not necessary. Medicine is necessary. Yeah. There is a point where medicine has to come in. But there's something that you need to do before that. And if you don't do that, then you're going to end up in the medicine thing. Kind of thing. And I think a lot of our people get caught up in this sort of obsession with food. And we're actually eating all the wrong food. In terms of, I can have a whole podcast on food and that sort of kind of thing. But fasting is God's way of actually sort of healing yourself. and also God has given a lot of leaves and herbs and that sort of kind of thing. That's our God's way of acting. So it's a nature, God's its own way of feeding ourselves. So that's why I've gone and sort of take that that line of thinking about my body and so forth. And I know I'm going to die one day. I'm not going to last forever, But I like to die thinking that I've done the best to look after the temple.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Coming back to that point about being responsible for our own actions and lives, just what you talked about at the start, and around working with our men and our thinking and our what's important in life. All right, closing thoughts around the men, the brothers, the uncles, the fathers, the papas listening in. What would you want them to take away from this talanoa that
I think it's really important that you understand yourself.
Yeah.
That you take responsibility for yourself. Don't depend on somebody else to do that. Our well-being is our responsibility. You can't even ask God for our well-being. Right? You can ask God to actually help us understand it, but you have to look after your well-being.
Free will,
You can't just pray to God, please make me healthy, but you're going down McDonald's and Kentucky Fried and eat yourself to death in that sort of thing, because God ain't going to help you. That's a fact. God has already gifted us all these things. Why do we need to ask Him more? He's given us the will. He's given us a very good gift of the body and the mind that you have. So I think really know yourself, understand yourself from your culture, from your own material sense, your body, right? Understand your own emotions, control your emotions, and understand your what you call your intellectual well-being. And to do that is you either do some work yourself, so research, reading, or talanoa. Or talanoa with the other. And I think this is where your group is really, really important. If you have talanoa online and things like that, or have what you call a group fasting. Let's have a group fasting today or tomorrow, sort of kind of thing, and see how people sort of come into that. I know it's struggle to start with, but as you go forward, people are going to start realizing how good that is for them. So I think that's, for me, it's really, really about knowing ourselves and understanding ourselves. Have a good balance of those sort of things, particularly your material world and your spiritual world. If you don't believe in God, you don't have to believe in a Christian God. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Christian God. It's a God, whatever God that you believe in, that's an important thing. That's your spiritual component or spiritual well-being. So having that balance on all those sort of kind of things will help our men, I think. I hope that that sort of makes sense to our. It's not easy. But I think when you do in a group sense, like what you're doing now, I think it can motivate others, support others. This is about supporting and that sort of kind of thing.
No, thank you, Luamanuvae. You've been generous with your time, and thank you for sharing insights, wisdom. We could have talked a whole lot about Bastion Point and some of those other areas of social justice and change that you've been a part of over many, many years. And thank you for the work that you continue to do with our men in the community, and the way you offer your services. And we appreciate you. Thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure. I really, really thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts. And I hope the thoughts are of some use to the men that are listening. And if anybody wants to ask any questions of me, I'm quite happy to sort of talk about that. So thank you.
No,
much appreciated.
Pleasure.